This is my first book. It's copyrighted, and the title is called A Quest for the Blueprint of Balance and a Play on Polarities. And I'm describing my book as an historical science nonfiction memoir. The introduction. It all began with a birth date that would silently plague me for meaning. In order to understand what this title refers to, I must reflect on past occurrences connecting the dots. How this blueprint works is through understanding synchronicities. Synchronicities refer to the understanding of occult philosophies that correlate with symbology. The universal system outside of my body is in constant tangent with the inner workings of my anatomical system. The focus on polarities is emphasized throughout this memoir because I was born transgender. As I learned who I was, I learned what this world was all about. I remember my earliest memories of thoughts of being a girl. At an early age, I was shell-shocked by the stereotypical ideology of male and female roles. Facing this kind of dilemma as an adolescent young child caused a level of concern that I couldn't fathom at the time. This world's existence simply became to be by what is coined an astrological birth chart, as I came into existence through this three-dimensional paradigm, which is basically a magical altar, triggered the piecing together of this jigsaw puzzle that would be later revealed to me. As I grew and evolved, so did this world. The past and future as polarities were in constant motion, influential of the moment that always seemed impossible. In order for this delusional projectory world to exist, it would need to have a secret system operated by symbols. Every single detail of this projected world is influenced by my humanly senses. My human design is set up like a sacred machine that projects an ongoing movie that doesn't end until I end. There are 6 senses that make this world animated. Intuition, sight, smell, sound, taste, and touch are the 6 senses that make this polarity of black and white a rainbow. My mind was constantly cerebral and everything always seemed like a question mark. I existed with these senses, however, nothing made any sense. I did not fully understand where this world would lead. I just went through the motions that this projectory world imposed onto me. I had to be observant of the secretive, influential themes to understand what the intentions were manifesting. I wanted to understand why I existed in this specific body and not in any other. Dualism existed because it was important to understand the reasoning for opposition. If you think of the symbols plus and minus, the differences occur to cause a reaction. If everything was the same according to eugenics, there would be no reaction or diversity. The three-dimensional paradigm can only work by diversifying the 360-degree circle. Placing a square, a 90-degree shape within a circle, results diversified imagery that conjures up a three-dimensional matrix. If the 360-degree circle did not have squared corner opposing shapes, a three-dimensional matrix could not exist. Without opposing shapes within the circle would result in a merging of space that could not define imagery. This trajectory is just like a television that I carry on my back, my head being the television and my neck and body having the ability to rotate itself in an 360-degree circle. This phenomena allows for me to be a mobile three-dimensional world trajectory that can magically raise the circular altar of image. Shape, sacred geometry, and friction were at the forefront of my mind. Anatomically speaking, I noticed that the shape of my head looked square that rounded off into a circle. Along with the rest of my anatomical systems, I started to understand how I was able to perceive such a deceptive projectory imaginable world of the three-dimensional matrix. Sacred geometry would need friction in order to produce the law of energy, gravity, and many other laws that automatically sustains a sense of groundedness. Friction causes a reaction and is necessary to make things happen. For instance, a reel of film in a projector can demonstrate a movie. The many laws that govern groundedness in a three-dimensional delusion are apparently scientific explanations in order to cover up a secret lie. The reason why I have incredible memory is because I would need that ability to store info that could later on be projected outward. I began to understand that my brain was functioning cohesively to a computer that was using my body as a machine to create information through the senses. Once I understood the mechanics of how this world could ever be possible, I then wanted to challenge myself of what a spirit and or a soul meant. I wanted to understand fully of what this alienable, familiar, esoteric world was all about and its origin. Long-term and short-term memory exist in order to pull to and fro info that brings into fruition the moment. History is taught not only to repeat itself, but to actualize similar themes, to propose future occurrences. The conditioning effect, through so-called heritage and public schools, has used my quote-unquote mechanism to manifest an entire world, quote-unquote, universal solar system. I did not realize this as I was maturing into later adulthood until my mother passed away and I delved into occult philosophies. And we have to remember, at an early age, I always knew there was a covert eeriness that was trying to remain hidden. For example, the subject mathematics has a formula to solve in order to measure a calculated solution. Also, the word mathematics is similar to the etymology of the word gymnastics. The last syllable in both of the words ends with ticks, the T resembling a cross, the I resembling a lit candlestick referring to the third eye chakra, and the S symbolizing a snake that could signify the planet Saturn's tail, the south node past, and head, north node future. This is how the secret code of etymology, which is language, reveals a deeper meaning than the superficiality of what is being shown. So when we examine how the three-dimensional plane functions, we must use sacred geometry mathematics to calculate image and movement, kinesiology. In comparison, the two words mathematics and gymnastics are used in the matrix like a jungle gym, navigating objects that are dormant and in motion through the three-dimensional paradigm, the magic circle. The existential crisis is the conscience realizing how a delusion is materialized. If you pick apart the word conscience, it reveals that mere science is what connects the square to the circle. Take the earth, for example. It is round, shaped like a circle, then make the earth flat so that it has four corners as a square or a rectangle has. So then again, the word conscience, the C-O-N-C-O, representing company, and the N in lowercase, symbolizing the letters I and N in one. Just like the coin that has a head side and a tail side, and in between the head and tail, you will find the body, the square within the circle. Now we will examine the coin, for instance, has two sides, a polarity. Within the two-sided coin will reveal a secret square, which represents the intensity of the emotional body that is not visible. The word money represents Monday, the moon, and the letters E, electronic, and the letter Y symbolizing the male chromosome. The moon, astrologically speaking, represents the emotional body. So when we think of money, we think of value, and when we emphasize a coin representing the anatomical human physique, you will understand why it portrays a head on one side and a tail on the other. The body, which is just a spinal column, is to remain hidden, symbolizing the hidden snake in the Garden of Eden. The body of a snake is flimsy, representing a spinal cord having a head and a tail. It can create the shape of a circle and the shape of a square corresponding to the square within the circle, the body. The body must be challenged by its exterior in order to create dialogue between the internal, quote-unquote, world and the external. This creates the entire phenomenon of an existential conscious, quote-unquote, world.